Hello, humans. Dan Bublitz Jr. here to tell you about my podcast, The Art of Bombing. If you're a fan of comedy and you enjoy listening to comedians' worst bombs, then you need to check out The Art of Bombing podcast, as I sit down with comedians from across the world of all levels and hear about their worst bombs on stage and to find out what they learned from them to get better, to find success through failure. Available every Tuesday wherever you listen to podcasts or at artofbombingpod.com.
Hi, I'm Kim Duke, and I'm married to an addict alcoholic.
Hi, Kim. My name's Chris, and I am an addict alcoholic.
Hi, Chris.
We haven't recorded, actually, in 2 weeks.
The two of us together?
Yeah. Because I did that addict-to-addict thing with James. Mm. And, I mean, we said this last time. It's way more enjoyable to record with each other. Mm-hmm. I always leave still breathing. Maybe it's just you take my breath away. Because when I was recording with Alex, breathing was just fine.
I make you nervous.
Yeah. So obviously that means I am not attracted to Alex. Sorry.
Dang it.
Okay. Well, it's been a terrifying week. It's actually, I think it has been a week, right? Since George Floyd was murdered.
Well, a little over a week.
Oh, yeah. A little over a week. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm lucky in the, like, being in the place that I'm at right now, because if I was by myself and you have the coronavirus plus the entire world is has your state under a microscope, that, like, the anxiety of, trying to stay sober with what appears to be the world falling apart.
Yeah.
It's got to be super, super fucking difficult for folks.
I wonder how people are doing in treatment facilities right now with all this going on too.
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword, because on one end it's a distraction, right, from the thing that brought you there. But it's also a distraction from the thing that brought you there. So you're not focusing on how to improve that aspect of yourself.
Yeah.
That's very, very interesting. I would say I've also noticed that, like, my addictive personality has, like, kind of really started glowing over the last 2 weeks. Like, the amount of food that I'm eating is insane. The amount of I guess I've always drank a shit ton of liquids, regardless of.
I think you've been drinking a lot more though, like water.
You think so?
Oh,
water,
sure.
Yeah. See, that's the thing with cans; you can throw it away right away. Mm-hmm. But when I fill up these big fucking mason jars, it's right in your face.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that, with picking smoking back up, I had however long I lasted outside of treatment, and then I can't remember. Oh, it was when they had me go back in the warehouse, and I just had, like, time to kill, basically. I just started smoking again. I've never had a problem quitting smoking. It's always been super easy. I just stopped doing it. But for some reason, I have, like, this, I don't know. I mean, it is fucking nicotine and a psychotic amount of chemicals that fuck with your brain.
I think it's now you've replaced an addictive thing with another addictive thing. Like, you've just been replacing things.
Yeah.
Since treatment. Like, the alcohol's gone, which is great, but now you replace it with eating.
Yep.
And smoking cigarettes and yeah. So working on that addictive part of your personality a little bit.
Yeah, which is interesting to know that about. And I was just thinking about this today, how people who smoke cigarettes are like constantly saying that they're quitting, or that they know the thing that they're doing is bad for them, but they keep doing it anyway. Mm-hmm. It's almost like this weirdly accepted aspect of, like, everyone seems to understand how tight of a grip to smoking cigarettes can have on you. Mm-hmm. And because it seems so hard, everybody just kind of accepts when somebody's like, yeah, I know I got to stop, but
yeah.
And they don't. And I think because, like, another thing is when you smoke cigarettes, you can still drive. You can still do all of the normal things that you do. So it doesn't necessarily inhibit you. Sometimes it makes me like a little dizzy, but for the most part, there's no outward like side effects. Yeah, I just thought that was interesting.
That is very interesting.
People.
And when I was learning about substance use and addictions, I learned that you should quit everything at once. And I know a lot of people use it like, well, I'm quitting. Can I have my one vice? Can I have my one thing? It's like, no, if you're going to quit something, you should quit it all. Yeah.
People say that all the time. The concept that you have to have
something.
So, like, people say like nobody's perfect. Just because nobody's perfect doesn't mean you have to accept a shitty aspect of yourself.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't, not being perfect is just inherent. It's an objective truth anyways. You are not perfect because you live and you die. Those are two for sure things. And therefore, even if those were the only things that you saw that were imperfect about yourself, let those be the two things. You don't have to have a vice. Although, candy bars and shit like that, just as fucking bad.
Yeah.
People don't think that it's as bad, but
it's bad.
Candy makes teeth fall out.
Can cause diabetes.
Causes thousands of dollars of damage inside your own mouth.
That can lead to heart issues. That can lead to blood pressure issues. It's just a cycle.
Yeah. The older you get, you start to like really realize how fragile your not just physical state, but like mental state too on top of this stuff. Because you do feel like you have to say, whatever, man. Fuck it. I'm going to eat this whole bag of Hershey's Kisses. Or I'm going to smoke this whole pack of cigarettes. Like, it's these onesie-twosie things that can really kind of spiral out of control. And unfortunately for me, it's fucking two of them. It's goddamn, was it last night or the night before where like I ate to the point where like my stomach actually hurt. But
I think it was the night before. Yeah.
Still couldn't stop eating.
I think the thing though is you were drinking all night long. You were drinking and drinking and drinking until you would fall asleep. Alcohol, which would fill you. Water's not filling you.
Wow.
Now you're taking a different substance that's going to make you feel full and you keep going.
That's very interesting. I did do a lot of the time I would drink until I knew I was done and then be done.
Yeah.
And there's no actual done, like you could eat until you start throwing up.
Yeah. But that's what you're doing now and it's not, where you're drinking a lot of fluids, but you're going to the bathroom a lot with,
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's I don't know, something to think about.
Yeah. I think that's
I think the smoking started because, like you said, you were working in the warehouse and you've always been able to just quit it.
Right.
But all of a sudden, this part of your, addictive personality is not getting censored all the time. So it's like, well, let's kind of take this over and give them something to desire that's a substance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's weird too because like there would be like people use drinking as an excuse to have a cigarette sometimes. I turned down cigarettes all the time when I was drinking.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's very interesting.
I think addiction is a constant learning about yourself forever. Even when you're in recovery and sober, you're still learning things about yourself forever.
But yeah, the other thing that I was going to say was I think that I've like figured out some type of recipe for staying sober. And these two little things that seem to like kind of have a hold of me, it reminds me that I don't think you're ever done being in recovery. Mm-hmm. Like you're in recovery for forever because when you let your guard down, and I think kind of like those vices that continue to go out throughout your life play into the fact that you're just slowly letting your guard down, and you could potentially let one thing encompass you or go back to the thing that made you realize you were an addict.
Yeah. It's trying to maybe replace it with something healthier that's not a food item. Walking. But then you got to watch that because people can get addicted to exercise, or they get that rush when they work out, and then they constantly thrive for that too.
Yeah, well,
it's life, man. You're constantly battling not becoming addicted to something.
For sure.
Yeah. We should talk. Well, I think the last time we were together, we talked about, my gosh.
That was with Jackie.
Okay, the time before that, I think we talked about Mental Health Month, May.
Right.
Which was over, and it ended very rough for everyone's mental health.
Yeah. Absolutely.
This year.
It's very difficult. So from a mental health standpoint, with everything that's going on, what advice do you give to people that they basically wake up every morning and the worst case scenario seems to be playing out in some regard? Whether you agree with what's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement or not, whatever side of the aisle you're on, something very extreme is happening.
Yeah. I think one thing though is, and I try and do this throughout the day because my anxiety and my depression has been so bad the last month, maybe probably the last month, is I look around and I think in my head things I'm thankful for. Thankful for my family. I'm thankful for my job. I'm thankful I have a house. I'm thankful I have a healthy family. And so I always constantly, got to say things I'm grateful for and just look around, because everything else, it feels like outside your walls of your home or wherever you reside, everything's falling apart.
Sure.
And then you can feel like you're falling apart inside. So I just, like today when I was feeling really anxious and overwhelmed, it's like, okay, yeah, but I have all these great things. So I'm just going to be thankful for these things in the moment, and kind of puts your head back into where you are. Sure. And doing some mindfulness things too, looking around. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you smell? Kind of bringing you back to that. And just, I think a lot of times too is when things feel out of control for us, and people like me that feel like I need to have control of something, and when things are going on in the world I can't control, it makes me feel very overwhelmed and anxious and sad. There's nothing I can do to change what's going on. Well, there's things we can do, but I can't change the events that are happening. I can't personally, just by myself, decrease the number of COVID cases. I can't myself, change what COVID's doing to some people. I can't change the way people, we're not following the rules, whatever else. I can't change what's happening with people looting and rioting and, peaceful protests being looked over. Yeah. And, the main point of what's going on is, I thought you were pointing. I thought you were pointing at the mic down. No, but I feel like, I can't control these things, and it makes me feel very, very overwhelmed. And you read about it. You're constantly reading about it on social media, and then you feel lost. What can I do? Yeah, I can donate money. Absolutely. And that helps. I'm not saying it doesn't help. Yeah. But when you physically want to help, like I want to stop everything.
Right. Yeah. You want there to be a direct, not like instant gratification, but you want to know that what you did had an impact.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you play that out mentally, and you can't see any way that what you're able to put forth has any kind of impact, it's very very tough to get through. Yeah. But I was going to say, it's tough when people say, like, count 4 things in the room, or count the 4 sides of a frame, and just list things that you're thankful for. They sound so trivial that people who have been put in really shitty situations mental health wise feels like that's not going to work.
Yeah.
You're shutting it down before you even give it a shot. But like when I exercise, I have a bad back. And so I do this thing where like I kind of lift my hands up and down like this. And I say, I am strong. I am balanced. I am strong. I am balanced. And whether or not that actually changes me in any real physical way, doesn't matter, because my mental state is that of which to say, I believe it in that moment, and I'm able to power through whatever it is that I need to do.
It's all mental.
Yeah. And so it's not so much that you're doing this cheesy act of saying it out loud to like a group of people at Thanksgiving. Like, you're doing this just for yourself, and sometimes saying it out loud changes the composition of your mind and allows you to just assess the situation.
Yeah. You release something. My friend sent me this thing today. That's what I was looking up, this video, and it's just this lady saying, you're worth it. And like gets you back in that mindset, like regardless of what's happening right now, you're worth it. You're worth it as a person. And it was really good. It was a really great video, a couple minutes long, just going into why as a person we are worth it. We're worth being here. We're worth the value that we give other people. Stuff like that. It was like, that was a really good video. So
we had a pretty positive experience with a company called Clean Cause.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Oh my goodness. I've never drank yerba mate before. I had no intent to ever drink a yerba mate.
Yeah.
But, you know, when someone has a good cause, I like to support it. I'll try it.
Yeah.
And holy crap, they're really good.
We thought that we had associated mate with dirt because my brother drinks the shit raw.
Straight
disgusting.
mate. Yeah. But he, because your mom bought a case of it.
Oh.
And yeah, your brother and his wife both loved it. They ordered some. Yeah, everyone was like, this stuff is really good.
That's awesome. And it's even better because 50% of their profits go towards like actually getting people through the financial aspect of treatment, because it's super fucking expensive.
Yeah. I can't imagine, like I saw your bill from when you were in treatment, and fortunately but fortunately you were hospitalized before, so we hit our deductible, and thankfully we have insurance, and pretty good insurance. I mean, it's not cheap, but I work for it, and it covered your stay. And I can't imagine people, like, I can see why people deter away from going to treatment if they can't afford it. It's expensive.
Yeah.
And
I was there with 3 people that were paying out of pocket,
which blows my mind.
So
I mean, good for them.
crazy.
They probably want the best treatment they can get for what they think, but to pay that out of pocket, I can't even imagine. I know that places have scholarships and grants and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, it's not the same.
You don't always get approved in time. It's a time crunch too, because you're hoping that these things will come into play and there will be enough money in that allowance for them to be able to cover your scholarship, while at the same time your insurance holding off long enough for you to get that thing.
Yeah.
Just to give people perspective, so Clean Cause has donated a little over $600,000 to people who are seeking recovery. My stay would have been
$37,000
$37,000
for 26 days.
That would take out a pretty significant chunk of that $600,000. So it just speaks to like how important that shit is. At least that I think it's super fucking important.
Because I think my thing to this is the instant gratification. I'm donating to good cause, but I get something also from it. It's true though.
I get what you mean.
But I know by purchasing this, it's an item that is delicious, but then it's also going to help other people.
People can use our promo code too. We're not getting paid by these guys.
Not getting paid.
But
I just want to help
people. They did
offer
to give people a discount, which it's the acronym of the show, which is TNSAA. It's the acronym for the Not So Anonymous Alcoholic. And then you get 20% off.
Which takes a big chunk out. Yeah. And me and your brother are so funny because we sat down and calculated, like, is it, similar to if you bought a yerba mate at the gas station? It's actually cheaper, I think, by purchasing it through this company, and it's going to a good cause.
Yeah.
And you get a big pack, you know. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Very cool. How are you doing?
Oh, no.
Doing okay?
Well, I know that for the past week, I've been saying I want to talk about something that's been heavy on my heart and my mind. And I haven't, I keep deterring away from it and making up excuses not to do the podcast because it's hard.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to out that family member. I'm not going to say who it is, but I have great feeling that this family member may be consuming alcohol again, and it's affecting me probably worse this time than it did in the beginning. I think every time it gets harder and harder.
Yeah.
It's again that loss of control. I can't do anything to change that person. Because there's things with tough love. Like I can be like, that's fine. I just won't have a relationship with you, but that's not realistic.
Right.
And
well, and from what we've learned, you don't, if you truly are in active addiction, it doesn't matter what ultimatum is thrown your way. In the right circumstances, that individual will not necessarily outwardly turn down anything, but just try harder to hide it and seem more present.
Which that's hard too, because then you don't know what's going on. And that happened for, I'm trying to think about how long it's been. Maybe 6 years now that this has been going on. And it's just like, in the beginning, you know, I talked about it before in an earlier podcast about how we didn't know that was going on with this particular person. And then you think they're doing well. And I hear from that person more often in healthy ways. Like you can, like when you have telephone conversations, you can understand what they're saying. And then they just kind of fall off. Yeah. And then these weird texts start coming in where you can't understand what they're saying, the phone calls. And then you almost try to call them out on it. Like this time around, I tried to say, I don't feel like you're being truthful with me with what's going on, because this person was very, very ill. And in my head, it's like they either got COVID, which there's some symptoms there that could be, or you're going through alcohol withdrawals again, which if you look up alcohol withdrawals, there's also similar features into feeling sick, all these kinds of things.
Flu-like symptoms.
Yep. Yeah. So it's like, at that point, I just said, I don't feel like you're being honest with me. And then the conversation ended there, and we have not.
Honest in regard to their use, or just in general?
With what's going on with that person. Okay. I just said, this person's been sick. And I said, I would really like if you go get tested for COVID. Because there's tests out there. They're asking, the governor even said, come get tested. There's tests available if you feel like, and this person also has been not working because of being sick. Well, then I just said, go get tested. And then eventually I just said, I just don't feel like you're being truthful with me with what's going on. Because I just, in my gut, feel it. That's what's going on. And then, then you kind of second guess yourself because you want to think the best of that person and hope that that's not going on, what's going on. But then like you hear other things like, oh, their memory's starting to get bad again and they're doing this and they're forgetful and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, that's the same thing that has happened before. And it sucks not being able to fix it.
Yeah. And we've said before that it's not anybody's job to fix that person or to make them realize their addiction, but it's hard when it's family. Yeah. Because you're not supposed to turn family away. You're not supposed to shut them out. And especially when you know that, especially for that individual, the more isolation, the worse they tend to get. Yeah. So that's hard to like process as a family because it's important, that it's not just you dealing with this. This is all of us. Yeah. And what's hard is too, like when it first happened, when it was coming on for a while that we didn't know that this person was consuming alcohol, but their personality changed significantly in the beginning, in the beginning, not so much, but throughout time. And now it's been, like I said, I think 5-6 years. Well, I wonder because they had dabbled in, was it opiates and benzos? Not benzos, but opiates for migraines and stuff. And like that individual was very close to an area where those types of things are available and for cheaper. Yeah. So it may be that they took a route where if they can't smell it on me, then they, if they can't find liquor bottles, then I'll be safe. And it'll be fine. Yeah. Plus with going to work, it's a brave move if you are in active addiction because they can smell it or then if you're not drinking, the fact that you can withdraw while you're at work and get really sick. Yeah. So I don't know. I've been thinking a lot over the past week and
that person that I knew 5 years ago, like I had hoped that that person would come back, not like physically, but the person that they were in the personality they had, that person was always so fun to be around. And I was so excited for my children to get to know the person I knew growing up. And that person, like every year and every month or in every day and every hour that this goes by, that person's not coming back. And you almost mourn that person's not going to be back.
Yeah. I mourn is the exact right word.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was in the hospital, like I had never thought of mourning. I had always associated it with death. I didn't realize that to mourn is the loss of anything.
Yeah.
Or the feeling of you're going to lose something. That mourning feeling. And I mean, it's partially anxiety too, right? Because you're, fearing the worst.
Yeah. Especially when you know the effects of this person had such severe alcohol withdrawals, they had to be hospitalized, that it's like at any point, if this person's using and they're going through active withdrawals, they could die at home and I wouldn't even know. And then the person lies if they are using. So it's not like I can be like, I'm concerned you're going to withdraw. Let's detox healthily. Let's go to a detox center, get you through the withdrawals, and then let's start again. But when that person's also not honest, can't force someone to a detox center if you don't,
That reminds me, like, part of the reason why addiction gets so much worse for people is, at least like I would say your average person, your average addict.
Yeah.
Is that the shame that's associated with admitting that you have that problem. Because if you lie the one time, then every time you lie after that is just, you feel worse and worse and worse about who you are as a human being. And so it just becomes more difficult to admit to that and to ask for help.
Yeah.
So I'd kind of forgotten about that, like the role that shame plays in people who aren't typically liars. And you create your own
reality.
Yeah, you're also putting shame on yourself that might not have existed to the degree with which you think it is.
Yeah.
If you'd have just see, that's why, like, I'm glad that, like, I'm asking for help with quitting smoking cigarettes too, is like the more that I just
shame is an awful feeling.
And
guilt.
I'm saying shame instead of secrets because secrets are only there because of shame, of some type of shame, when people start to keep secrets like that. And I'm already ashamed of what I look like anyways. So I don't need to add on the fact that I'm trying to get away with some bullshit that I don't actually need.
Yeah.
But that's such a hard place to get to.
It is. And that person also isn't very open to any sort of treatment, which is hard because you went through a pretty intensive treatment where you've learned a lot in this person. And it's always excuses why they would drink too when they would talk to me. Well, this person said this to me and it upset me. And when they're not open to any type of, other healthier coping skills to deal with events that happen, like this person was upsetting to me. So I just walked on my treadmill and got, dealt with it that way, or read a book. Sure. This person resorts to a substance, unfortunately.
Well, I think, I'm trying to think of how to say this. When you grow accustomed to having something as an excuse, Alex and I were actually just talking about this. You walked in while we were recording one of the episodes, and I jokingly said that was my bitch of a wife. But then we started talking about people who do that all the time, who are constantly complaining about their spouse. But the second that you say, why are you guys together then? Are you sure, like, it's healthy? They snuff that out so quickly. Like, you begin to accept this as your environment and you want to be able to complain about it. But any, like, resolutions that people come up with, they don't want to accept it because they've known this stuff for so long.
And unfortunately, that person also grew up and saw that with their, you know, their parental figures where they were out using, you know, out drinking all the time. This person had to raise themselves to who they are now. And then as an adult, you deal with things that you don't know how to deal with. Well, growing up, you didn't learn effective, healthy coping skills. You only saw poor coping skills. And then by the time you started becoming an adult, you had children and your focus was on children until eventually your children get older and move out. And then now you have to focus on yourself. And then the, you know, 30 plus years of shit you went through that you haven't dealt with.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the trauma trend of that individual having to be around somebody that was associated with that trauma their entire life
always
is so fucked up.
Yeah. Yep. And then even now as an adult, their parental figures, well, parental figure uses alcohol, you know, in front of this person when this person was in the hospital, was so in such denial that was what was going on with this person. When I had
we can say their mom.
Yeah. So their mom, I had to clearly say, this is what's going on with this person. They went through alcohol withdrawals. No, I think it's the blood pressure. No, I think it's this. Making excuses when there's doctors saying, no, this is what is going on.
Yeah.
And that person now even, you know, and that's what was my concern, is that this person was traveling with this, you know, their parent.
Yeah.
And I'm sure during that traveling, that's when it started. And now here, I mean, even maybe before.
Well, think about that too. Like, they've never known either someone that was a family member or a love interest that didn't create some type of trauma and then force them to just kind of get over it. Mm-hmm. You need to get over it because we need to do this now. You need to get over it because that person's going to be a part of your life, whether you like it or not. Yeah. Like a lot of having to just get over shit, I think sets you up to just accept really awful things in your life.
And I feel like the more I work in mental health and the more I work with people who are chemically dependent, I just strongly think it's a dual diagnosis. You're going to have co-occurring. You're
sure.
I don't think people, I mean, there are going to be people that just develop an addiction because they feel like it. You know, they just like that substance or they like the lifestyle.
For sure.
But I feel like there's a much higher percentage of people that use because they're either dealing with something, they don't want to deal with stuff in their life.
Yep.
They have schizophrenia or they have a severe mental illness and they use to cover up those symptoms of their mental illness so they don't have to deal with it during that time. Like, I just feel like there's so much more of that. And with this person, I feel like a lot of it was trauma as a child, growing up, even into adulthood, that hasn't been dealt with. And when you drink, you don't feel anything, you just pass out.
Right.
And that's what that person uses it for, is to just drink till they pass out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Most of the people who had like PTSD.
Did you notice that in treatment, a lot of people had some type of mental health diagnoses too? Yeah.
Most of them didn't seem to realize it themselves. It's one of those things where like you don't grasp how fucked up your situation was until you say it out loud to somebody else. And you can, I think I'm unique in that for the last 2.5 years, I've been reading the room. So like gauging, well, actually longer than that, like 3 years now. But I mean that from like a stand-up point, when you say something, you can see the reaction and you can feel it in the air. And so I was very like hyper aware of kind of where I hate saying the vibe of the room, but like would change when somebody would say something terrifying and then they would go, but that was just dad though, and move on. And like they wanted to quickly get to why they thought they were an addict rather than these fucked up things that had happened. They don't think that it has anything to do with the actual addiction that they're dealing with. They're like, oh, I just was out with the guys so often, and then Terry left, and and then I was kind of just drinking by myself, and here I am. It's like all of the gnarly shit. There was a lot of PTSD. There were quite a few bipolar individuals. And definitely just massive amounts of depression.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate because alcohol is a depressant. So a lot of people.
Well, that was another thing that somebody kind of brought to our attention was you're still coming off of a really depressive state because you had been applying downers basically for so long, and then it's stripped away from you, so you're mourning the loss of your thing, even though it was keeping you down. Yeah. So there's like just this really, it takes a while for that, like that light to kind of come in any sense. Yeah. And you saw people, obviously come out of their shells and have a better outlook on their treatment plan. Yeah. As they say. But yeah, I would say I can't think of anybody that I met in there that didn't have some kind of underlying either trauma or underlying issue.
I think lately too, I've noticed this in myself is I've been so anxious lately to the point where I can feel my heart pounding on my chest. And that I would have that occasionally, but it's been like every other day where I can feel it. And in my head, I go, man, it'd be really nice if I had a cold beer right now. It'd calm all of that down. And it's like, no, that's where it starts.
Sure.
Like that's where it would start with me right now because of the state I'm in.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, now it's happening every other day. If I start by, I'm going to just have a drink, it's going to be like, okay, now it's going to be like every day. I feel my heart racing. And I can see that, if I could look in the future, I'm like, if I was consuming alcohol at this point and I started doing that, I'd be like, I'd be drinking every day. Yeah.
Well, and like, not to alienate anybody who's listening, but that only has as much weight as you give it. So if you associate alcohol with fixing something, then you're just going to keep feeding that beast, and it's
which I feel like is a lot with this person. I think
sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, like, just if you're associating having a drink means I'm at a place where I don't have any responsibilities at the moment, I'm going to sit down and just take a mental break. That's a different thing. Yeah. So
I'm saying, like, in the state I am emotionally, I think I've been very emotional with this issue with this family member for the past couple of weeks, like really bad to the point where it's like, I've been driving and crying because it's like, and I think the thing that's the hardest is I have two worlds of it where I have a loved one who went to treatment and came out and is doing really well.
Doing okay.
Well, you're doing okay. We gotta get rid of the food and the cigarettes. But then I have this other family member who's still just digging a hole. And I'm gotten to the point where in my head where I'm like, this is what's going to take this person's life, I'm sure.
Yeah. That's the other shitty thing is
yeah. So it's like, it's hard because I get so angry. Like, it works. Treatment works. If you want it, if you can be honest about it and you go and you want the help, any type of, I'm not saying inpatient has to be it, but outpatient, anything. It can work if you want it to work and if you want to get help. Right. But this person doesn't want help and it doesn't admit to their use. Sure. And it's like, and you can say it how many times that it's going to kill you and that person doesn't care. And that I get angry because it's like, you don't care that eventually I'm going to lose you to this. A fucking substance. It makes me so mad that has so much control over people. And
yeah, I was going to say, it's so hard not to though, right? I was talking with another friend about how, when I had my back issues even though there was nothing I could do about it, people helping, you helping, everybody doing all of these things, you cannot help but have some form of resentment to the situation. Doesn't mean that you fully resent that person, but you can't help but start to ask those questions like, you don't think you could handle even this one thing? That's fine, but it just sucks, you know?
Yeah.
And you, like, when you start to allow yourself to do that shit, I mean, you're just going to feel more and more like they should know better.
I know. And I'm trying not to get to that point. That's why I'm doing
It's super fucking hard, though.
It is. It's so hard. And that's why I've been trying to do more. And I think that's what's causing a lot. I mean, obviously what's going on in the world too, but the depression and anxiety is like, that's why I've been doing a lot of the, this sounds so shitty, but I had how many beautiful years with this person in my life. And I think back on those great, wonderful memories.
Well, what you're doing is saying, if the worst should happen,
yeah,
what will I remember of this person?
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying is you're going to remember these.
So I think
things.
back, and it's like, it just sucks because that person I knew so long ago, my kids will never know unless that person gets the help they need, and it's never going to happen, unfortunately, and that's just hard. I
think it requires a group effort, and not in the way that we are kind of used to, which is do you want to break for a second?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Just as it pertains to this family dynamic, not our family dynamic, but that family dynamic, there's a lot of that's over there, and we only see it on the holidays. Yeah. Like, we deal with it in little spurts because we have to, but otherwise we only have to deal with it as much as we get involved. So the less that you're involved, the more that shit just kind of has room to have happen. And that's why, like, a few days ago, I had said, does that person need to move in with us? Because part of the plan for any treatment facility is to remove you from the environment with which you were using it. And in some cases, it doesn't matter how loving of a family, and in the best cases, you're removing them from a real shithole of an environment.
Yeah.
It can go either way, but you have to remove that person from that environment, and then that person is allowed the room to start to dissect how they got there. And if you start to sense that in any degree, like when I was in the hospital, I started to sense that in some degree, right? Didn't want to admit that I was an addict yet, but because I was in there and all I had was time to just think, then I had to confront that in some degree.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always have to be a hospital stay for somebody. For some people, it's just, I'm going to go stay with a family member. I'm an adult though.
Yeah. Why
would I need to go stay with a family member? Why would my other family members encourage that I do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying that person has to move in with us, but, it does require the family as a unit to do something that they're uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't have to be an intervention. Real quick.
I think what's hard too with that whole family dynamic is there's a lot of denial, and they'd rather be in, people in that dynamic would rather be in denial about it because that's how they would rather deal with it than deal with the situation.
I'd say it's more negligence.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to say it that way, but
no,
all of those family members are actually very aware of the majority of the situations that are going down. It's like you get one shot, and then after that, people just say, all right, well, they refuse to get better, so.
Yeah, I think.
Or they refuse to change their situation, so.
I think one big thing, too, is this person before, when I all started talking about, like, treatment options and doing therapy and outpatient stuff and all that, a lot of it was financial concerns. How would I pay for that? I can't take time off of work and
Sure.
go to treatment. I can't take time off and do outpatient therapy and all that.
Right.
And that's why.
Because they don't feel supported from the other person
Yeah.
in their life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. That's why when you were going through your treatment, and we had these talks a lot too, when you were, you know, when you had to be off work and doing your thing and all that, it's like, I would rather you be healthy and we have lower income and we'll figure it out than you coming back home, continuing the cycle and not getting better.
Sure.
But and I just wanted my mentality to be opposite than the other person that's in a spouse of this other person. I didn't want to think that way. I wanted,
Well, I think that just came naturally. Of course, somebody that I love, their well-being is more important than a financial gain, than them roughing it out and figuring it out on their own so that we can maintain to have a steady stream of money coming in. And I think that's kind of been bred into you guys, is like the impending doom of having no money is very real on that side of the family. Like that concept seemed to kind of plague you guys, or that side of let me try that again. Because I'm trying to keep it whatever, man.
Yeah.
That, do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
You guys were told time and time again, like, how are you going to afford anything? How are you going to have a car? How are you going to have any of these material things that you have to have? How are you going to have any of those things? What does it matter, if you have a kid, you're still going to have to put in all of those hours. Like, it just seemed like very early on, and I've seen to a degree all of you guys deal with that in some way, whether it means that I need help getting money. I need to have that money, so somebody has to give it to me, or somebody just feeling like they're never going to have that money. And so they just kind of accept their position in that way. And things have changed for that individual, but just every spectrum of what money means.
Yeah.
I can only imagine that it had to have been 10 times worse for the family member that we're talking about, because whatever fear the other person has in regards to having income for their family, had to it's tapered off as that person got older, right?
Yeah.
It's not as bad. They're not saying all these really extreme things anymore. But back then, when the idea of a family coming out of nowhere, I can't imagine what that other family member was submitted to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So having that happen, the fear that comes with not being able to work and not being able to add to the what the fuck is the word I'm looking for? Add. Contribute. Thank you. Contribute to this, this dual income expectation. Because if they're not bringing in money, the other person's not going to share. So them looking for help is that much scarier, because all they've known is you're on your own as far as money is concerned.
Which is, it's crazy to think that.
You and I are lucky in that way, because we had a shared account right away. What's yours is mine. That concept was, we forced it on each other really quickly because we needed each other to survive. Maybe that's why we're so good at it now. Is just kind of had that realization,
because I feel like it's very interesting when you see other family members.
I really do feel like I need you to survive. I think that we've done that. Yeah. Is that codependency?
Yeah, we're a little codependent. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. What I want to end my story on today, though, is if you have a family member, friend, or someone close to you that is struggling, just be kind.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, be kind. Because I knew of this person's trauma. Unfortunately, my whole life I've heard of this trauma, and it sucks to say I understand why they consume alcohol. I completely understand. 100%.
Understanding doesn't mean you endorse
support it.
Or support it.
Yeah. So I understand. And I'm not unkind to this person about it. I just, when I said, I just want to know, I don't feel like you're being truthful with me. It wasn't like, I hate you. I don't want a relationship with you. I actually reached out to this person today and said, how are you doing? And they responded. It's been weeks, but they responded. And it wasn't even, we didn't even talk about obviously alcohol or anything like that, but ended our conversation with, I love you and I love you too. And
I think you said something that I've been doing lately, which is I feel like for my whole life I felt like I always have to give a really extreme scenario, or I have to let somebody know how vulnerable I am really quick so that they feel safe in telling me whatever they need to tell me, and like that they don't have to bottle all this shit up. Like, it's just been the way that I am. But I've learned that in doing that, like by me having to give examples, like having to say, oh, when I was drinking a bunch and when I was hiding drinking and things like that, it's more often than not, that person is just going to give an example of a fucked up thing that they did. And then I give a fucked up example. And we just do this echo chamber that gets you nowhere.
Yeah.
So what I've found helps that you said is when that person is sharing, to just go, that sucks. To try and give like levity to how you're expressing, like you want them to know that they have your full attention. It's more than just saying, I understand. It's I'm right now listening. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's all you need. Like that lady in the hospital, just sitting there, not bombarding me with war stories, just listening. And you could tell that it was not in a way to like, okay, so now let's get you to treatment. It was just being there, just being present for that individual makes a huge fucking difference.
I know I'm going to end this cheesily, but
I was going to say, I'm glad we did this because we don't always feel like doing it.
I know. The thing is I know I needed to do this because I've had a lot of, I'm going to cry again. I've had it heavy on my heart the last couple of weeks and it's been weighing on me. And I'm like, just talk about it, Kim, because someone out there might be feeling the same way that you are right now and have that heaviness on their heart and they just need to let it out or hear someone else let it out. And it's hard because I don't give specifics. I apologize. But like I said, I think with people with addiction, if it's their story and they have not come out and wanted to discuss their story, it's, appropriate to leave it as theirs. But
yeah, it's not our job to call someone an addict. And I mean, we didn't even call that person an alcoholic. It's just that they
struggle with some substance use.
Yeah.
That inhibits their health.
Yeah. It seems to affect their way of living currently.
Yeah.
And that's all that you can say is.
As much as, I didn't feel like doing the podcast. It's mainly because of that, but.
Yeah. Well, it's heavy, heavy stuff. But I like that we are like forcing ourselves to do this. Obviously we want to help other people, but it's keeping me alive.
Yeah.
This is one of my main life supports for sure. Oh shit. You know what? We were supposed to read a question.
Oh, we have a question?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll go to that.
I had forgotten all about the question. Oh, and if people are wondering why I haven't been reading letters, really the only one I have left is this one from a friend of ours, and it's a lengthy one, so it'll have to be done when we do like separate recording style. And I'm just going to dedicate another half hour to that. But the family letters.
Not every family member wrote a letter, which is fine. It was if they were comfortable.
And it was just heavy for people.
Yeah.
So it's not that they didn't want to, it just hurts to have to relive some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks for answering the questions that I sent in. Your answers helped me to realize that it's best not to overwhelm my friends with pressure to get it together. I think it's better to offer my friends helpful suggestions when they open up, but not to go overboard. I want to make sure that the door is open when they're ready to make a change. That's really what we were just talking about too. Question for Kim.
Oh.
Has life been better in any way that you didn't expect since Chris stopped drinking? Have you missed alcohol more or less than you would expect, or not at all? And how do you like the new album by The Used?
That's a good question. Okay. Things that have been better. Definitely Chris has been more present. I feel like before you'd come home with your case of whatever you were drinking and come downstairs and just hide, kind of a thing, and just consume yourself with whatever was going on, with whatever you were doing in your office. So that has changed a lot. Your willingness to engage and do things around the house too. Not saying like, oh, you were just a drunk, lazy piece when you were here, but like you're just more aware what's going on around you. I feel like you're less angry too, like in the way you approach even the kid. Not like you were angry and mean towards kids, but just with things, you're not as tense. I noticed like when you were drinking, you were so tense all the time, and just it honestly felt like you looked like this all the time. And I feel like, I don't know if just because you're not hiding your drinking and all that, but like a weight has been lifted, and I feel like you like walk a little more smoothly through the house. And
interesting.
So I feel like that's changed too. Got to work on your sleeping. That's garbage still, but
I think I'm just so happy to be awake. You know, because I feel like now there's so many possibilities for things. Yeah. That my mind just goes, fuck, sleep, dude. Yeah. Let's create stuff.
Have you missed alcohol more or less? I'm neutral. I'm not really at all.
Just said that.
Well, I mean, like in moments like that where it's like, oh, if I just had a drink, I could probably calm myself down, but not like I miss it. I honestly, like, I think back to those stupid stories where you're like, the next day you're like, oh, I'm never going to drink again. I honestly don't miss feeling like that. Like when you work in a facility where you see people coming off alcohol and they feel like shit because they came in so intoxicated and they talk about how shitty they feel. I don't miss that at all. And I feel like it's made me more present too. I feel like we've talked about this in previous podcasts, like towards the end of your drinking when it was really bad, it was more like you were kind of peer pressuring me. And so I felt like I had to drink, and I felt like a weight, like, okay, we're going to have someone over to podcast. I'm probably going to have to drink. Like I didn't like that. So I don't miss any of that at all.
Sure.
The new album by The Used. It's good. It's different.
Anything you'd like to add about the?
Me and the kids were in the music video.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, stop. I know.
My God. I
know. We were in the music videos. That was pretty cool.
You must have had an amazing director.
The photographer, the videographer, I should say, nailed it.
Director,
videographer, writer, nailed it. God,
I'm just so sorry.
I'm always going to love their first album more than anything. Nothing will ever be that first album, unfortunately. Sure. It's just an amazing album, but it's pretty good. I know that they're trying to do different things. And speaking about addiction, Burt McCracken was significantly addicted in that first album. His lyrics, you can hear it, and he talks about it in his lyrics. And now him being, he doesn't drink, he's sober. Well, sober from alcohol, we should say.
Yeah. Well, I think, okay. So James and I
know, I tried listening to that podcast.
You didn't like it?
I have a different, in my head, but I understand where he's coming from with his being sober. He's sober
the funny thing is he is one of those people that believes that you need to have some vice, but from his perspective, it's not, to say that whole, I don't know. It's like a kind of a nihilistic view.
His thing is that opiates were the one that was dampering his life and causing a negative thing in his life. So he's sober from that substance.
Right.
He uses other substances, not in excess.
Mm-hmm.
He occasionally will drink and use marijuana. He says not even very often. So, I mean, I get that. So, obviously, with Burt McCracken, he was using pretty hard drugs and alcohol, and it was significant. I mean, we saw him at that concert where he had a broken arm. He was so messed up. He looked so ill. But he still actively talks about how he smokes marijuana. He has his own CBD oil with marijuana, THC in it.
There are individuals where there are certain substances that bring them to like a different plane of consciousness that allows them to evaluate situations and better handle them. Whereas these other things were inhibiting their...
That's a good word, inhibiting, yeah.
Yeah. Their ability to deal with certain scenarios.
So if anyone has any connection to Burt McCracken and he would like to call in and talk to us on this podcast, I think
great.
he would be a good person to talk to because he
I
struggled
agree.
for tons of
Tweet
years. Maybe I will tweet at him.
Tweet him, be like, hey, I was in the music vid. You should...
I kissed you on the cheek.
I kissed you on the cheek.
10.
Smelled like meat and cheese.
Oh, questions for you.
Yeah, what do we got?
You want me to read them to you?
Sure.
Is that why you handed it over?
No, I handed it to you so you could see the questions, but...
Well, I'll read yours to you. Do you feel like your addiction has inhibited your creativity or productivity?
Wait,
do you feel like your addiction has inhibited your creativity or productivity?
Had?
No. Has. Like, because some people are more creative when they're under the influence of something. Oh, I can create all this stuff.
I guess maybe I misunderstood.
So do you feel like your addiction has inhibited your creativity? Do you feel like you're as creative and productive now as you were?
Yeah, but I'm nitpicking. Like,
I don't.
So they're saying, has my sobriety inhibited? Because
no,
it would be the opposite.
Okay, that's fine.
Because inhibited means lack of, right? So.
Oh, do you feel like your addiction has?
Right.
So what did you feel like your alcohol inhibited your...
So currently it would be, does sobriety seem to have inhibited my creative process?
I don't think so at all.
I don't think so. Even a little bit.
Do you feel like you're accomplishing more without it?
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm guessing you have moments where you irrationally feel drawn back to the bottle. How do you remind yourself that it isn't worth it?
That's what's weird is I don't actually.
You don't have the draw towards it?
No. The couple of instances where I've had like a craving, they're super fleeting. In my dreams is where it seems like I can't fucking escape it, which is gnarly. Every night that I was in treatment, I had a dream about using. Every single night was either like seeking out using and people like fighting me, trying to get me to stop, or like just every single dream was about, is someone allowing me to use, or am I trying to figure out how to be able to use? So I don't know if like subconsciously it's just laying low. And so I don't like, that's the only reason why it happens in dreams. But this last dream, which I think was about a week ago, I think in the dream you had like okayed one drink. The weird thing is like, you know how in like a cartoon, the like shadows on the wall of a crowd walking towards, right? Those cascading shadows. This feeling of like these cascading shadows from the next room were coming in and were gonna catch me drinking. But every single room that I went into, I knew where the booze was in that room, which is fucking insane. So I was just getting more and more inebriated with each room, but there was this cascading shadow of people constantly coming at me until I finally found a bathroom, and I was able to lock myself in the bathroom. And I jumped in the shower to hide more, and wear like a hanging shampoo rack or shampoo shelf. I don't know what else to call it. Shelf in the shower instead of any cleaning. That's a weird way of saying that.
Hair product.
Yeah. any
shower
antibacterial. But instead of anything like that, it was all alcohol, and I mixed myself a drink in that shower. So when I have these dreams, they're super
vivid,
intense.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But then in the morning, it's kind of over with that. I remember it, but it's so I haven't had like
a conscious craving.
Yeah. Well, not that, but like just a really strong one. The actual desire to put things in motion to be able to use. I haven't had that at all.
Yeah.
But cravings will be it for everything. I would imagine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just want to end it with be kind to one another. It's a tough world out there right now. It's always been a tough world, honestly. Yeah. But let's just remember, be kind to people. If someone's struggling, reach out. If you have concerns about someone, just be there, be a friend, be present. Just listen. Sometimes just listening to someone calling in, saying, hey, how are things going?
Yeah.
Just listen. Be there.
Oh, you took a pause right when I was drinking.
Check out Clean Cause if you like your Mama
Yeah,
Day.
cleancause.com. Promo code TNSAA. Please share these episodes, subscribe.
Wait, one thing too with the Clean Cause, by you purchasing that, you can potentially, that money goes to people that need to go or get help, and that could be the person that I'm struggling with right now.
Yeah. One extra day in treatment is one more
day
sober day.
Yeah. Okay, keep going. Subscribe, like, follow, share.
We've got a new show that's going to be released here pretty soon with another comic. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're not wanting such heavy episodes, we
need some laughter
got
again.
some more laughs coming for you, and we're going to try to do as rules lighten up as far as COVID goes.
Other people in person doing this.
Start having guests on and with both Duck Duck Grey Duke. We have those spoons
that need to be eaten.
For our snack segment.
We'll get there.
So do all the things, please. Duck Duck Grey Duke on all the channels.
Send questions if you have any questions.
Yep.
We can keep everything anonymous.
Yep. Yeah. If you want to be on,
if you want to call
anonymous,
in, we can distort.
There you go. Distort
your voice so people won't know who you are. We won't say names.
So, do you remember the thing?
And with this, I shall pass.
No.
Oh, sorry. Don't tell
you
me.
do that every time. That's so funny.
What is it?
And with that, we will pass.
And with that, we will pass. Okay, I'll do it again. And with that, we will pass.
I'll leave them both in there. Fine.
Why don't you do it?
No, you did. Good job.
Okay.
Good job.